Yeah, without doubt. You said there's going to be a lot more money spent between now and the deadline as well. So let's get into some of those big deals. Alexander Isak has been the one we've all been talking about. I mean, as you know, mate, I'm sick to the teeth of sort of talking about Isak, but it seems to change day by day. What's your latest thoughts on the situation there, and how do you see it playing out?
There's so much to this situation. A lot of it we know and have heard. A lot of it, I'm sure, we don't know and haven't heard and might do subsequently. For example, at the end of last season, people like me reporting that with Newcastle qualifying for the Champions League, Isak, in Newcastle's mind, is going nowhere. We fast forward by a few months and we learn that he was clear in his intention to Eddie Howe that he wants to go towards the end of the season. And then releases his public statement, and he's pushing hard. He's not training. He's not playing. Liverpool are there lurking. They've made an offer, not come back in yet. How's it going to end in these final few days? So I think the most accurate summation of it came from Eddie Howe himself when he said there's no update. When he spoke, was it before and after the Liverpool game? And that's the truth, because at the time of recording this, there's a lack of clarity. And that's not just window dressing or us not knowing. I really think that is the situation, because Newcastle's stance could not be more clear. They've not been looking to sell Alexander Isak. They have him under contract, a very lucrative one, until the summer of 2028. And in their mind, and we've all consistently said this, they want to continue with him as their front man, leading them into the Champions League and the future. Unfortunately for them, he doesn't see it that way. He wants out. And despite conversations taking place, and we've all seen the reports about meetings at Alexander Isak's house, etc., all of our understanding is that he remains resolute and steadfast in his stance, that it hasn't changed. And that's sourced from people privy to the entire story. You hear from certain quarters, people saying, this camp is doing this and this club's putting pressure on. I'm afraid from my experience anyway, that's not how it works in your sourcing of information. And that has manifested itself because we've seen that he absolutely doesn't want to be playing, wants to leave, wants to join Liverpool, sees his chapter at Newcastle as being over, and that's really uncomfortable for Newcastle fans, and it's not nice. And whether we like it or not, it is just the situation. So what was always clear in recent weeks was that this match between Newcastle and Liverpool needed to be done and dusted before any movement would come about. Now that match is out of the way, we are into this zone where at any moment, any day, in the coming days, or even if it goes right down to the deadline, 7 p.m. on Monday, we could genuinely see some developments one way or the other. Now, the only obvious development is that, Newcastle managed to land some targets because they've been trying. Despite their stance in not wanting to sell him, they have been scouring the market, whether it be for the Callum Wilson replacement, whether it be in case Isak leaves. And if any of that effort comes off and Liverpool then come back in at a satisfactory number, which they haven't done so far since that £110 million bid, then of course a deal can happen. Nobody has suggested otherwise. But there are a lot of ifs and buts in that on every side of the equation, and therefore there's just no guarantee that it's going to happen. And it raises the prospect, of course, that window shuts and he's still at Newcastle United, and then comes the unknown of whether he would stick to this supposed approach of not wanting to reintegrate and having played his last game for Newcastle, or whether he does come back into training and play for Newcastle again, potentially into the future. I don't think any party is really focused on that part just now, because they're dealing in the present, and every minute and every hour and every day is really crucial. But as I said, at the time of recording this, there is no clear, concrete direction of travel But of course, efforts are being made on all sides in terms of Newcastle exploring reinforcements in that part of the pitch. Liverpool waiting in the wings, maintaining their interest. Isak determined to leave and get his move. And it's all bubbling up for an explosion, a crescendo potentially very soon. And finally some clarity to all of this. Or maybe it doesn't explode and we pass 7 p.m. on the 1st of September, and then is a huge question about what happens next. And that's something that none of us can answer.
One thing that, just picking up on what David said there, was interesting to me is that with 12 days to go, I think that was when Alexander Isak put out that statement. And then it all became really, really public. And it was basically him saying, effectively, I've got 12 days to try and influence this deal because nothing else has worked thus far. On top of that, Newcastle United then went public with their statement. But what was interesting with their statement is they said that the conditions and the terms of a deal have not been met. So by definition, there are conditions and terms for a deal to be done for Alexander Isak. And it's, as David explained there, it's twofold. There's got to be a price that Newcastle have in mind that must be matched. But the other conditions have to be that there have to be replacements for Newcastle United. And they went on to say they don't expect the conditions to be met. I just wonder whether that was a thinly veiled message towards Liverpool. It ain't enough what you're offering. So if you do want him, you're going to have to raise that price to what we want. And as David mentioned there, crescendo time. He's absolutely right. We're recording this with 5 days to go. And I mean, I mentioned at the top, didn't I, Pete, that I expect that the spending to go through 3 billion. And you know, there's still a chance that a big contributory factor towards £3 billion could yet be this deal.